Hundreds of people took to the streets of Gabon's capital, Libreville, to celebrate after military officers announced they had seized power. The army officers in the oil-producing country have put President Ali Bongo under house arrest, and this happened just after the Central African state's election body announced that Bongo had won a third term. In an overnight televised announcement, a dozen senior officers declared that the election results were cancelled. They also announced border closures and the dissolution of state institutions. They told the nation they represent all Gabon security and defense forces.
All right, let's get more details now. In the very latest, SABC International News Editor Sophie Mokoena joins us live now. Sophie, what's the latest from Gabon? Because when you read reports, you can see that the president says he's in one place, his wife is at another, his son is at another. So what do we know?
Well, what we do know is that the president is at the presidential palace under house arrest, and children are in a different house, and also the wife. We also know that currently the military is meeting to discuss a way forward, because they've pointed out that they don't want to take over power. What they were against was a continuation of a dynasty. You know that the Bongo family have been in power for almost 56 years. And therefore, the country is poor, but the family is very, very rich. And therefore, I think it was a view from the military and some within the country and the opposition that the time has come for a change. But the Electoral Commission in that country had pronounced that Bongo has won. But you know, when coming to these institutions who are charged with responsibility of running the country, it depends who they are and whether they've been appointed as proxies for the government to continue to assist whoever is in power to continue with government. And therefore, it is no surprise that the military and some in the country are now celebrating that they have removed Bongo. But let's take a listen at what Ali Bongo had to say in the dungeon in Libreville.
I'm Ali Bongo Ondimba, President of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you. Thank you.
And there's real noise in the streets. The soldiers are celebrating. Some people in Gabon are also joining in the celebration, while the friends of Ali are aggrieved.
And I wonder how the country is doing then in the face of all of that.
Well, I think the country has been struggling. I remember 18 years ago, I was in Gabon, in Libreville. The then former president of the Republic, Thabo Mbeki, was on a state visit in Gabon. When you leave the airport, you know, it's just poverty. And you know, the issue of dictators, they don't even think in terms of what they are doing. They had lined up people from the airport to the city, almost people from Johannesburg to Pretoria. And then it was hot, and they had to wave and sing and dance until the convoy had passed, different points. And on the other hand, they had the then former president in a car that, slasher or open coupe, that doesn't have a roof. And that wind from Johannesburg to Pretoria, just because Omar Bongo wanted to demonstrate that he's got friends on the continent. And the other issue, after the bilateral meeting, when they were supposed to have a press conference, the media, we converged there, and the two leaders, when they came, President Mbeki and President Bongo, then Omar Bongo the late, he realized that they didn't bring his platform. You know, when you have a podium and you have a platform, because a leader is short so that he can be elevated. That is why he was wearing high heels, Omar Bongo. And then he realized that the platform is there. He stormed out of the press conference. He didn't even be decent enough to tell his guest, Mbeki, that I'm leaving. And then Mbeki had to later apologize to us because there was no platform, but the whole press conference was called off. In the evening, it was dance and singing, because the daughter is a singer and married to, you know, with in the Congo, Brazzaville family, you know that. And therefore, you can see the problem of dictatorship. But let's take a listen at what the Secretary General of the United Nations had to say in terms of the current trend that we see, where we are experiencing coups on the continent. Let's take a listen at Antonio Guterres.
We need to address the root causes of this situation, and to address the root cause of this situation is to invest in robust African capacity to address its security risks, not to give this kind of pretext to those that instead of doing their job are trying to grab power for whatever purposes.
And also, he talks about something very important, you know, Sophie, when it comes to the issue of the root causes. We're seeing more and more presidents who are being held, of course, against their will by military, you know, personnel who then take over the reins, who are expressing unhappiness with what's going on. One wonders, what could be the reason then behind what we are seeing?
I think it's the issue of not delivering on your promises for better life for all. And the nation becomes restless. And therefore, when there's that window of change, they are suffocating, and they are now clamoring for this fresh air, the change. But unfortunately, military cannot be a solution. We know what has happened in many countries where there was a military rule. Let's take, for example, in Zimbabwe. You know that in 2017, the military did remove Mugabe from power. Today, the very same Zimbabweans who were celebrating then are complaining, and therefore the military cannot be a solution. The solution is to elect leaders, and when those leaders are elected, they must deliver. But unfortunately, it's all about their families, their friends, and they tend to forget the masses or people who voted them in power. And you have a young generation. This young generation really is disgruntled. They are restless because there are no jobs, and they constitute a huge or a chunk of the population on the continent. And therefore, when you organize anything with the help of social media and the internet, it catches fire.
And it's going to be interesting as we continue to look at this developing story and various aspects of it thereof, just to see if the root causes are really being dealt with. And as you say, it's something that really now needs urgent attention and conversation. That is Sophie Mokoena, SABC International News Editor.